What's up, everyone? I'm Doug Kyed, here with Mike Hurley. We're going to chat about the Pats on Pats Chat. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. This was, by far, I'd say the strangest week since I've been covering the NFL as far as like football goes. Um, and yeah, I felt like it would be kind of weird for us to be like, all right, the Patriots have a bunch of injury. Like, might as well talk about Damar Hamlin off the top. Obviously, very, very good news coming out today. Seems like he's definitely improving. Seems like doctors were very optimistic about everything. Were you watching the game on Monday?
I actually never miss football, but due to circumstances, I was not watching, which
Interesting.
is kind of rare. So I was like playing catch up maybe 10, 15 minutes later. And I was like, all right. I mean, we've seen a lot of things before, but pretty quickly, obviously, learned that it was not like that. But I think, like most people, it was like, all right, the reports are good, the updates are good, but like, without him being awake, there was a big sense of apprehension. So to get the news today that he had woken up and was alert and communicating and all that, I think that was the news that a lot of us were just waiting. Not that he's out of the woods or clear or all set or anything like that, but that's like sort of the step one that I think allows everyone to sort of exhale.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, because yeah, it seems like as the week went along, like you said, the reports were getting more and more positive, but they were still pretty vague. Today, a lot more details came out about it. Like you said, he's awake. He was writing. I thought it was, very cool, very funny that one of the first things that he wrote down was, "Did we win?" And obviously, the answer from the doctor is like, "You won. You won at the
Yeah.
game of life." Was certainly pretty cool as well. But
It's
I
crazy too,
mean,
because in his, consciousness, he probably briefly was out.
right,
It's not a 3 day long drawn out process. He probably just, thought it was that night or something when he woke
right.
up.
He was like, "Well, I was just playing football, so did we win the
Yeah.
game?" But yeah, I mean, ultimately, you can, question some things about how the NFL has handled this whole process, but like, I don't think you can like fully prepare for a situation like this just simply because it was like a freak. I guess we don't know this for sure at this point. They haven't really come out with, why a lot of this happened, but from what people are speculating about, this just seems like it was basically a freak accident that hasn't happened throughout the entirety of the sport and hopefully won't happen for another 100, 200, whatever years now at this point.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's something that has happened in maybe high school sports or youth sports
Right.
or amateur sports or low level sports where when you don't have that medical response, obviously the result is usually tragic. So I think the fact that all of those medical personnel that responded immediately, I think it's a big, I don't want to say a win because it's obviously a horrible, horrific incident. But when that situation arose, the fact that they responded properly and treated him within minutes or as soon as it happened is pretty remarkable. And to me, the reason on Tuesday morning that I found some, I'm an optimist, which doesn't always come through in my general interactions with the world, but I am an optimist, and that I remembered the soccer player last summer,
Right.
the Danish player Christian Eriksen, who I just remember for whatever reason watching ESPN, and the studio show was the exact same as what we saw play out Monday night, where basically everyone thought they had witnessed a man dying, and for all intents and purposes, they kind of did.
Right.
Um, in that Christian Eriksen returned to professional soccer in February, 8 months after his injury. So, while obviously we don't know where this is going, but on Tuesday it was like, well, when you get immediate care and you get immediate treatment and you progress in certain ways, there are happy endings. So I think knowing that there was a case of that certainly helped buoy the optimism even as early as Tuesday morning.
Definitely. And like I said, I mean, this isn't a situation that you can prepare for, but it feels like the NFL is almost prepared for these situations with the amount of medical personnel that are at the stadium. I forgot who tweeted it even on Monday night, but it was basically like there's probably not a better place for this to
Yeah.
happen other than a hospital than on an NFL field, just because the ambulance is there. There's so much medical personnel around. It seems like one of the Bills trainers was really instrumental in providing immediate CPR as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, really strange week in the NFL, and the fact that the Patriots are the Bills' Week 18 opponents has obviously thrown the Patriots' plans in a loop as well. It was just announced, we're recording this on Thursday night, that the Bills and Bengals game will not be resumed. I think that we all kind of assumed that was going to be the case because there wasn't really a good potential plan for how the NFL was going to resume that game. One thing that I heard was like maybe they push everything back a week and go without the bye heading into the Super Bowl, but I guess they could have done that, but I don't know. I feel like this was really one of the cleaner ways to handle it, but it does make playoff seeding a little bit more complicated, and we don't have an answer yet on that about what the NFL is going to do about playoff seeding. But the NFL looks like they did just announce that they will consider doing a neutral site for the AFC Championship game. So that would kind of reduce the value, I guess, of getting the number 1 seed. So I don't know. You might know more about what the NFL is going to do by the time you listen to this on Friday. So we apologize for that. But there's just a lot still up in the air at this point right now.
Yeah. And it's similar to, well, first of all, I do want to go back a little to, like you mentioned, like the criticism of the NFL for handling and everything. I feel like so much of that and the Joe Buck and the 5 minutes thing was just so unnecessary. And like, of all people to say, like, I'm not a lay off the NFL guy, as you obviously know. Quite the opposite. But it was obviously, there have been 9 billion injuries in this league, and 8,999,999,999 times the game goes on, and it's just like kind of a sick, barbaric element of the game. So the fact that it was even, that they didn't know exactly what to do in that situation, I think everyone can relax with the whole, being up in arms about that. Yeah. And then that kind of goes into this. Like, I don't know that there's a right decision. We can critique and nitpick with any decision that is made or thrown about, but considering you can't play the game, and the Bengals are like, listen, like, whatever the Bills want to do, everyone's being respectful of the situation. There's no fair way to solve it generally, but even still, like, sports generally solve themselves with records and whatnot, but there are tiebreakers that aren't necessarily fair. There's seeding that is determined based on, maybe you have a head-to-head when the quarterback was out. There's all sorts of things you could draw up. So it's not ideal. It's not perfect. I guess in like the NFL's perfect scenario, that the Chiefs would lose on Saturday and the Bills would win on Sunday. And then that would work itself out. But I think, I mean, who knows, by the time someone listens to this, maybe we're wrong, but I think doing that instead of like adding an 8th team to the field seems more reasonable, even though that home field advantage in a 1-2 matchup is huge. We've seen that, especially with a team like Kansas City and with a team like Buffalo. But I don't know that there's an easy answer. And honestly, if you're Kansas City, you can't be too mad. And if you're Buffalo, I don't think you're mad at all about any of this because you're kind of just happy to get through the day.
Right. I think that is what the NFL is kind of trying to protect, is like making this as fair as possible for the Bills, because they are the ones who are in this difficult situation. And if they'd won against Cincinnati, then obviously they would be in a different circumstance right now. But yeah, making it a neutral site for the AFC Championship game would mitigate the loss of getting the number 1 seed, I guess. And looks like, just reading through this document right now, if Baltimore beats the Bengals in Week 18, then it looks like a coin toss could decide where a potential playoff game between the Ravens and Bengals would be. And yeah, they are considering a neutral site if it comes down to, one of those 3 top teams playing in the AFC Championship game against one another. This is ultimately a Patriots podcast, so I guess we don't need to get too deep down that road. But if they had increased this to 8 playoff games, that probably would have increased the Patriots' chances of making the playoffs, I guess, or if they still do that.
Yeah.
But
Well, because as it stands now, Patriots wise, you either need a win or you need what? Dolphins, Steelers loss, and Titans loss. I
yes,
would assume if they made it 8, you could lose and maybe only get 2 of those and still make it or
right.
whatever. But it's still, I don't know. I mean, this game, and we'll get into it a lot less, I think, than we normally would
Right.
with matchups and Marcus Jones coming back and all that stuff. It's still such a mystifying thing to even try to envision that it's probably not worth investing too much emotion or thought into like, well, are the Patriots going to win Sunday? It's honestly like, I
Right.
don't know, man. Who knows what Sunday's going to be like in Buffalo? It's obviously going to be emotional. There's
Yeah.
obviously a lot on the line, football wise, quote unquote, but I don't think anyone there is going to be overly focused on it. So,
Yeah.
um, it's the weirdest, conclusion after we've been chasing this playoff thing for 6 weeks now.
Right.
But it really is sort of just like you just got to sit back and sort of take it in for what it is. It's not like anything we've seen. I don't think we've seen something like that ever.
No.
A team in that scenario where the player is still in Cincinnati and all, like there's a lot at
Right.
play.
And I think it helps. I'm not a, I like I can't speak for Patriots fans in this situation, but I would assume that it helps to know that like even if the Patriots like somehow get screwed in this, or like if, assuming they lose, like whatever happens in this, like the Patriots weren't going to go far in the playoffs anyway. Like
Yeah, that's
making the
true.
playoffs after this season was probably just gonna be like gravy one way or the other. So
Yeah.
I feel like just like Patriots fans can't feel too bad about whatever happens on Sunday or like what happens heading into the playoffs because I don't know. It like yeah, as you said, it's just such a strange set of circumstances heading into this game. I will say that like if the Patriots do lose on Sunday in Buffalo, which I'm assuming is the likely conclusion to that game, like it is still possible that the Browns could beat the Steelers. I think the Jaguars will likely beat the Titans, and it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that the
Skylar
Jets could
Thompson.
beat the Dolphins. Like
Skylar Thompson game, right?
right, like the Patriots could have a worse like set of like possibilities or
Yeah.
probabilities to make the playoffs even if they lose in this game.
Yeah, I mean the likelihood of all three happening are a bit much, but individually each one is certainly plausible. So
Right.
logic dictates that all three could happen. But to what you were just saying, like yeah, it probably softens it a bit if they miss the playoffs because they weren't going far, but also because what we talked about last episode, all of the regrets of the year, most notably the double lateral, the fumble at
Right.
the end of the Bengals game, not going forward in overtime in Green Bay. Like one of those wins, then you're not really sweating it out in Week 17 as much. So
Yeah.
you're right. I do think I think the perfect scenario, like the movie version, is like the Patriots go out there and it's a tight game and it's a feeling out process and there are some highs and there are some lows for the home team. In the end, maybe with more to play for, the Patriots go on like a game-winning drive and the fans aren't really all that upset and everyone puts their hand on their brother's shoulder, has a hug on midfield. Can't you picture like David Andrews and whoever just sort of
Right.
like on the opposition just having like a brotherhood type moment because that would be good for the Disney movie at least of how it plays out.
Right.
The 2022 Patriots aren't really built for Disney movies though, so it'll probably be more likely like a 24-7 Buffalo win, and all the fans are really jacked up, and the players win it for their teammate. But you
Yeah.
got to consider all possibilities.
No, absolutely. Uh, I got like extremely. When did we record our show on Sunday?
Later, like 8, 9,
I got like
9.
really sick on Sunday night, and then
Oh,
have been like pretty sick for the whole week. So, um, on Monday I was like throwing up all day,
oh
and then on
wow, that's terrible.
Tuesday I was like just kind of like Tuesday was a really weird day with this whole situation because obviously like no one knew what was going to be happening. So I was
Yes.
just like laying on the couch all day, and fortunately I didn't have a whole lot to do, but it just kind of made the day worse. But yeah, is this like weird stomach bug hit your family?
Oddly, so my daughter was like, "Oh, I'm sick. I'm gonna throw up." She never did, and I'm like, "Okay, what's in your head?" And then a week later, I actually had to work at night on live television, and I got home from work, and it was like 6, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm gonna throw. And I had the same like bad nausea. I was like downing Pepto. I was Googling how to not throw up when you're nauseous, because doing that on live TV would be. I mean, on the one hand, like going viral's always there's always a
Oh
positive
yeah.
in gaining some buzz. But vomiting and never getting to work again, not great. So I powered through that, and I had like a couple days of nausea, but we never actually got sick. I don't know what that is. Is nausea a thing that is contagious?
I think so. I don't, because one of my daughters threw up multiple times on Christmas Eve,
Mm-hmm.
and then my other daughter threw up on Christmas Day,
Mm.
and then
Well, that's definitely contagious.
my younger daughter, threw up again. I think on like New Year's Eve, and then threw up again. I don't know.
Oh,
And then
wow.
yeah, I
It was
woke
very
up
medical.
multiple times on Monday night throwing up. It's that same thing of like nausea. I woke up with like a weird feeling in my throat. I was just like, oh no, I feel awful right now. This is gonna be bad. But yeah, ever since then, my younger daughter just thrown up again, and my wife was throwing up today.
Jeez.
It's just been like it's been really fun.
Yeah,
but
I love the winter.
and like a stomach bug is worse than like I feel like it's worse than the flu or a cold or any other type of sickness, because like at least for those you can take Dayquil or something. Like
Yes.
if you feel like you're gonna throw up or if like you're throwing up, like there's just literally nothing you can do.
That's tough. I will say, like the side benefit of the COVID period where we never left the house is like, no, the kids were not sick. They were so healthy that whole time. It was delightful. But life moves on. This is a very medical podcast we've got going on.
It is. And speaking of illnesses, I did at least want to run through the Patriots injury report and
Affluenza? Are you going to get into the affluenza?
Well,
did you catch that one?
Devon God. No, I must have missed that. Well, Devon Godshaw mispracticed with an illness. Was that influenza?
No. Affluenza is what
affluenza.
Channing Crowder said Mac Jones is suffering from affluenza.
Oh, that's.
Maybe we could talk about that a little bit if we do a little, because
Sure.
we don't have a plan in this podcast because it's a weird week. But
Yeah.
after the injury report, go ahead.
Definitely.
We now go to Doug Kyed for the news.
And like the notable stuff since Sunday's show, Jonathan Jones and Jacoby Myers both have been limited with their injuries. Jonathan Jones with the chest, Jacoby Myers with the shoulder. So I don't know. Like I've said before, Patriots injury report is a lot different than other teams. Like I would say for most teams, if someone would be limited in practice 2 days in a row, and be like, you'd have like a more clear picture of whether or not they're going to play. This is just very vague right now. And then Jalen Mills has been limited with groin, and then Marcus Jones and Johnny Smith both have been or did not practice on Wednesday with concussions, but were limited on Thursday. So they certainly seem to be trending in the right direction as well. And I don't know, like we've said, like this game is just a strange circumstance in general, but I think it would just be nice to have as many guys play this game on Sunday as possible. Just like make it as entertaining as possible. Yeah, just like
Disney movie.
Like get everyone out there. I just want to be able to watch Marcus Jones. I want Johnny Smith to finally catch a downfield pass. Like I want to finally see the secondary with some more health. I want to see Jonathan Jones and Jacoby Myers out there. I don't want their season to end on an injury. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the important thing about those things.
You might remember Sunday night I declared Jonathan Jones out because
I think you might. Yeah.
So you heard it here first. My source being watching him wiggle on the ground in chest pain. Something bad must have happened. But I think that's positive developments. Anytime guys are getting better, but I don't have much to add on the injury report if we're being honest.
No, that's totally fine. I think I missed the affluenza part of the week. So who was it?
I don't know where I caught it. Channing Crowder said that Mac Jones has affluenza, which is when people that were born well off,
affluent.
They react like babies and can't handle and I just feel like this narrative on Mac Jones, he's kind of brought upon himself this year by obviously demonstratively objecting to his situation and basically whining and complaining. Like, no doubt about it, he brought it on himself, but I still think people are like using it to paint him as a human in his whole life. and they're like, he hasn't earned the right to do this, and he hasn't. It's like, well, he didn't do it last year. He never chewed out Josh McDaniels last year. I didn't watch every minute of his Alabama career. I watched like everybody else watches Alabama, like when they're on. You watch. I don't remember him chewing out the coaches there.
No.
I think it's a very unique circumstance. So I think there's this sort of narrative built up around Mac Jones. And again, when you curse out your coach during the game, when you yell at your teammate on the field and all that, like Peyton Manning did that, and we all pointed it out. It's not great, but I think people are using that snapshot as like to paint the whole tapestry, which is really artistic of me to say. And I think people are stretching a little bit, and that's not even like a defense of Mac Jones. It's just a reality. Like how he acted in 4 weeks in 2022 is not a sign of his entire behavioral history.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that for the most part. This is something like I, as we've said before, like I generally don't care that much about Mac Jones yelling at coaches and all that stuff on the field and everything. I do think that it would help if he was like in a vacuum all by himself playing a little bit better before he does this.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it paints his entire life just because he did this season in what most would consider like a very bad situation for a second-year quarterback, going from one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL to someone who's literally never done this at any level whatsoever. So yeah, he's bound to get frustrated, and the catches are catching it, or the cameras are catching it, and like because he's done it once, the cameras are going to keep catching it and keep showing him do it. So I don't think that helps as well. So no, I agree with that for the most part. I feel like on this podcast, a decent amount, we talk about things that like we just don't care about. And that seems like something that you just like, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't care about this. I thought about something this week about something that I just like don't care about. I'm curious for your thoughts on it. Did you like follow the whole Kayvon Thibodeau thing?
Yes.
About how he did the snow angel next to Nick Foles when Nick Foles was like writhing in pain with a rib injury. Then he went to the sideline and did like the Steph Curry like go to sleep thing. And then Jeff Saturday, I forgot the exact word he used for it. I think he said
garbage?
It was like garbage or trash or something like that.
And says he wished his O-line beat the crap out of him.
And then Kayvon Thibodeau was like, I don't even know who Jeff Saturday is, which I think he meant as like, I don't know Jeff Saturday personally more than
think
like.
So I only read it on Twitter. I didn't hear it.
I think that's like, I don't know, based on like other people's reading of what he was saying. It was basically just like, I've never met Jeff Saturday. I don't know who he is personally, so I don't really care what he thinks of me personally. I agree that the exact quote was different. Like the exact quote made it seem like I don't know idea who this person was.
I don't know who he is. You're right. That could be in like, I don't know who he is, or it could be like, I don't know who he is.
Right. And that's, I kind of felt like I said, like, I don't know Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't know a great deal about, like, I know obviously what everyone was saying about him before the draft and everything like that, but like, it seemed like a different interpretation of what he was saying was like, I don't know who he is personally.
Should we go to the tape, Doug?
Yeah, we certainly can. I just like
Phil. All right, Phil.
It would be impossible for him to not know who Jeff Saturday is at all. Like clearly he knows who the head coach of the team that they were playing was, you know?
Probably. I mean, I would like to think so, but here, we'll go to the tape. Let's hear it and we'll judge for ourselves.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. Who's the gatekeeper of when to do something? So once we figure out who the gatekeeper is, then we can write the rules and then we can establish, the narratives and things like that. But until, you guys actually are in the sport and do it and be in that moment, you can't create a narrative on it,
Well, we're not creating a narrative on it. The other team's coach had a problem, and he's the guy who played the game. The other team's players
I don't
had
know
a
who
problem
he
with
is.
it.
No, I just don't know who, like anybody who comments on it, unless I know who they are, doesn't really affect me. That's it.
It's still unclear, Doug. I got nothing from that. You could say it's like a magic eye. You see, well, not a magic eye. What's the thing where you see whatever you might see? I don't know. It's a magic box. Yeah, I don't know. I might be making that up, but it could go either way on that one.
I I think that my ultimate point here is like, I don't really care if he knows who he is or not. I don't care.
That's
I
fair.
like because people are like, he doesn't know who Jeff Saturday was. Like he was like a 6-time Pro Bowler in like the mid 2000s. Like,
Yeah.
like okay, like I don't know.
What year
I
was
like,
Kayvon Thibodeau born?
right. Like I was a football like nerd, so if there was like a 6-time Pro Bowl center when I was like 5, like would I have known him? Like maybe, but I don't know. Like
He was born in 2000.
yeah,
So I mean,
and
really
like
not
Jeff Saturday's
following
career probably
centers.
began in like the late 90s, right, or
I
early
want to say
2000s.
96. Oh, 99, you're right. And he
99?
retired in 20. So Kayvon was 12 when Saturday was all washed up with the Packers. So really not part of his life. So I can see that really not impacting. But you're right. I don't really care. But we still just talked about it for a little while. So how about that? Did you catch Bill Belichick Thursday talking about the Reggie Brown injury that he witnessed in 1997?
Yes, and I actually had like kind of forgotten about that,
Hmm.
and then after he talked about it, and after like I like sort of processed him talking about that and read about it a little bit more, I was like, oh damn, I do really remember that like pretty vividly from my childhood because I don't know, I was like a huge like football card junkie, and I had I remember back in 1996 when I was 10, like getting a bunch of like football cards that year, a bunch of rookie cards, and like getting Reggie Brown cards. And when that play happened the next year, like being like pretty devastated, and it being like a pretty chilling thing to have happened at the time. But like things went pretty well for Reggie Brown. Fortunately, like Bill Belichick said, like fortunately he's been able to walk and everything like that. Wasn't able to resume his career, but yeah, I had like completely forgotten about that situation, and then it all like sort of came rushing back after that.
Yeah, that was 97. So it was the last week. Barry Sanders hit the 2,000-yard mark,
Yep.
like either just
It was
before or
Adrian
just after that.
Morrell on the carry.
Yeah, he fumbled, and then the Lions went on the playoffs and lost in the wild card round, which they've only been once. They only went once after that in the Barry Sanders era. So, or no, he might have retired before that last one. But anyways, it was December 21st, 1997. I can't say that I was watching. Can't say that even struck me, but I think it was one of those real moments from Bill Belichick where he's just like, you don't want to make that situation about you, and you don't want to make apples to apples comparisons, and he was careful not to do that. But I think he was just relating to everything that the Bills and the Bengals are going through and have gone through this week, that allowed him to relate, because there's just something different when it's like life and death.
Right.
And when players are witnessing that, and we see some awful things, and players see awful things and do awful things. Like think about all the like Vontae's perfect on Antonio Brown, like hits like that where everything stops and someone's unconscious and it's horrible. And I don't mean to like downplay those, but it's just something different when like hearts stop and breathing stops, and players do that. So I guess it's a sign of progress that the game was not continued this time. I guess it speaks to the possibility that it could have or almost did if it was happening 25 years ago. But I just thought that personal story from Belichick, who, he said like my memory is not that great, but obviously he had every single memory perfect on that one. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a nice human relating to other people moment, and I'm sure it doesn't really help the Bills or Bengals, but just to know that other people, I mean, there probably aren't that many people that go through that exactly, well, not exactly, but very, very similar. And
Very
Belichick
similar, yeah.
was sharing that for sure.
Yeah, because it was a spinal contusion for Reggie Brown, but I think they did have to administer CPR on him. On
Yeah,
the
so
field.
like he was
And it was a
okay
long
and then
delay.
wasn't. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how that happens, but I don't know a lot of things about the human body.
I don't like. I think this is an appropriate question to ask, but like, do you think that a situation like this would cause the NFL to stop more games in the future? Like, I'm not saying like obviously in this exact situation they would again,
Yeah.
but like I don't know if like the.
I
guess
don't
it's
think
tough
so,
to gauge,
because
I guess it's tough to gauge situations in the moment because like
Yeah.
you could easily say like on the Ryan Shazier play, like they could have stopped the game altogether. But you don't know how that situation is going to unfold.
Right.
And if he seems, like as long as they don't have to administer CPR on the field, then I guess you can like keep going. But I don't know. What do you think?
Remember earlier this year, was it the Lions game against the Patriots when the ambulance had to come out for a young player? And like there was a really long delay. His dad had to go, and then his uncle was coming from the stands. It was kind of like a whole long delay. And I think he was fine like by the time he got to the ambulance. Like there's obviously a very, very high level of precaution whenever heads and necks are involved. So it might be, like you mentioned, hard to gauge like in the moment, is this X, is this Y, is this Z? Whereas this one was pretty obvious. So I would say anything where it's that obvious and players, I mean, like we've never seen players react like that, not in our lifetime, the way that they did on Monday night. So ultimately, I think that was it. And you heard it, and not to get into the debate about the NFL and the call and all that, but you heard it when Zach Taylor said he went and asked Sean McDermott, and Sean McDermott's like, I shouldn't be here. And like football guys don't say that or think that, like as sick and twisted as it is, like it's next man up, it's moving on. And they knew in that moment it wasn't that at all. So I would just say common sense will prevail. And I think that might be the precedent that is set when the people involved can't do it. Yeah. They have the power now to have it not happen, which maybe wasn't the case 25 years ago, and certainly in the 70s. That I would say is the precedent that's been set, that like if they just can't do it, then they don't have to. Right. Are you surprised? Which was kind of the case for this week, like coming up. But up until the updates, that was on the table.
Well, yeah, and Tom Pelissero did say that there's not going to be any discussion of adding an 8th seed. So glad we spent 5 to 10 minutes on that. But I guess obviously this was a sensitive situation, and like the NFL didn't want to rush into anything. I'm still, I guess, a little bit surprised that this decision's ultimately going to be coming on Friday rather than maybe like today or earlier in the week. I think that they had to get a positive update, obviously, on Damar Hamlin before they did have to make a decision. But maybe I'm a little bit surprised that the meetings that are going to take place, that took place tonight on Thursday night and now will take place on Friday, weren't kind of taking place behind closed doors earlier in the week so that they were at least prepared to make a decision. That being said, if there's not an 8th seed getting added, then like teams that already felt like they were eliminated from the playoffs, like don't need to get back involved. Like the Titans or something don't need to, rush a player back on the field or, but I don't know. That was one aspect that I was maybe a little bit surprised by, is just that there wasn't, I don't know. There wasn't like the speed to make a decision.
Do you know what I noticed? And Greg Bedard noticed it and tweeted it out too, but the NFL Jesus site, I don't know what Jesus stands for. Do you?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, GSIS. Yeah.
What's Jesus stand for? Let's see. Global. That's not it. Either way, the NFL's back end of their system, their whole internet. They were messing with the standings. They added a tie to Buffalo and Cincinnati, and then they added a win to Miami and Pittsburgh. Lost to New England, or a tie. I forget exactly. I think it was a tie to New England. It looked like they were seeing what happened, because that format automatically does all the tiebreakers.
Right.
And so this was, I want to say, either Wednesday or Tuesday. I think it was Wednesday.
Interesting.
And for like the whole afternoon, the Patriots were sitting there at like 8-8-1 or 8-9. And the Bills were 12-3-1. I don't know. It was so there was clearly some thought behind the scenes, but I think you're right. Until there was like a sign that the exhale that I talked about earlier, with Damar Hamlin, I feel like it wouldn't have been right. And there's so many members of the competition committee around the league that it's not like you can just do it with executives. They probably wanted some input there, and it's a weird week, and everyone's just trying to get through it. So I get it. And ultimately it sounds like they're going to choose like the easiest solution in terms of not adding weeks, not delaying playoffs. I saw one idea where like the NFC playoffs start next week, and it's just like Bengals Bills play, and it's It got too complicated.
Yeah.
A lot of things seem bad, and honestly, like there's no right answer. Like what happened, and it was a freak accident. That's the other thing that I think factored into this week playing out the way it is it wasn't a helmet to a knee. It wasn't helmet to helmet, which is still terrible.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. It was, and it's not even like a particularly violent or thing. It's just like, from what I understand, I'm not going to try to pronounce commotio cordis, although I just did, I guess. I took Latin for 4 years. It didn't really work out. But if that's what it is, and we have no idea, but that's sort of the understanding that like a hard impact at the exact right and a heartbeat
right
can cause it to sort of short circuit or, kind of fizzle out. I think that made it what it was. I think that made the week what it was, where it's like that could be anyone at any moment.
Right.
And just seeing it was terrifying. I think the other stuff, as bad as the other stuff is, there's always the assumed risk, and there's always like the commonality of it, which again, I take headshots really seriously, so I'm not diminishing in any way. But I'm just thinking from the player's standpoint, it's like there was nothing there, and he's fighting for his life right now, that so many things couldn't happen until he woke up.
Right. No,
so I think that goes into the planning.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably, and like I said, as long as they weren't going to be adding an eighth team, I think they could delay this decision as much as they needed to. And honestly, I'm kind of impressed. Like, I don't think I probably would have thought of a neutral site for the AFC Championship game. Like, I'm not sure if that thought would have necessarily crossed my mind to level the playing field on this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's give it up for Roger. Let's give it up for Roger Goodell. Great
finally
idea,
deserves
Raj.
it. We're gonna clip that off, and I'm just gonna play it.
That's Chat Podcast has been renamed 3 Cheers for Roger Goodell. Hip hip hooray! For he's a jolly good fellow. No, I don't think I would have thought of that. No, but I guess it goes into what's more advantageous, the bye or the home field. I would argue the bye after a 17-game season is more valuable than a potential AFC Championship home game, because you might get that home field anyway if that team that doesn't get the bye doesn't win their 2 games. So the bye is still, I think, the primary benefit more so than the home field. Not that home field doesn't matter, but if I'm weighing those at the end of this season, a week off from football is probably a more significant boost. So if Kansas City gets that, they will reap the full benefits, and I'm sure they won't mind playing in Indianapolis.
Right.
Which kind of wait, that sucks though, because you have Arrowhead and you have whatever you call, not, I don't even know what the
is it. Highmark?
Yeah, Highmark. Used to be New Era, but was obviously Ralph Wilson for our whole lives. Like, those games would be incredible. Either one. It is a bummer. That stinks. That's a bummer.
And and it's not only weighing a bye week or home field. It's like, do I get a bye week? It's weighing a bye week and then a neutral site. Like, you're not only, giving up home field. You don't have to play on the opposing. I don't know. It would almost be more fair if the number 2 seed got to play at home in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, because you're kind of splitting the benefits.
Right.
That's true. So help me out, because I'm slow and stupid and all that. If the Chiefs win Saturday and the Bills cannot get the 1 seed, because the Chiefs will be 14-3 and the Bills are 12-3.
And that would have been the case regardless?
No, that wouldn't have been, because if the Bills beat the Bengals, then they would both be 13-3 and the Bills have the tiebreaker. So
I think that
under this, if the Chiefs win on Saturday, then the Bills don't have anything to play for on Sunday standings wise, and can take that as their bye.
That is true. Yeah.
Granted, they have a lot to play for because they're showing up to play.
I'm just gonna read this. So the AFC Championship game will be played at a neutral site if the participating teams played an unequal number of games and both could have been the number 1 seed and hosted the game had all AFC clubs played a full 17-game regular season.
So that's only the Bills and Chiefs, because the Bengals Actually, no, that's not because the Bengals.
No, those circumstances involve Buffalo or Cincinnati qualifying for the game as a road team and are listed below. Scenario 1: Buffalo and Kansas City both win or both tie. A Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game would be at a neutral site. So even if the Chiefs win, it still would behoove the Buffalo Bills to win against the Patriots. Otherwise, the game would not be at a neutral site. If the Bills lose to the Patriots, then I think that the AFC Championship game would be in Kansas City.
Good thing
Scenario
you read
2,
that.
Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Baltimore wins or ties. A Buffalo versus Kansas City Championship game would be at a neutral site. So if both of them lose, still a neutral site. Scenario 3, Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Cincinnati wins. A Buffalo or Cincinnati versus Kansas City championship game would be at a neutral site. So the Bengals are only involved if the Bills and Chiefs both lose and the Bengals win. But yeah, if both teams win. So even if the Chiefs win, Bills should still try to win on Sunday. Otherwise, they're playing in Kansas City. If
the Chiefs lose and the Bills win, then the Bills will be the outright 1 seed.
Yes.
Because the Chiefs will be 13-4 and the Bills will be 13-3.
13.
Actually,
yes.
Strike anything Michael Hurley says from the record on the standings. I thought for a second that might come into play, but I don't know what to make of all that. It seems as though the football teams are going to try to win and figure it out from there. So,
yeah, but it was a good thought that, okay, well,
thank you.
But ultimately, it was a bad thought.
Were you, and I think it's okay to talk about this now, but like the performative clout chasing that took place this week from so many people looking to like boost their stature and status based on like a horrific and terrifying injury. That was just gross. I hated that. It was terrible.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on that I'm not sure.
It's like a human thing.
Like fully convey, but yeah.
It's like Skip Bayless was like the primary offender. Obviously, like his fake emotion.
Yeah.
Like he's not a human, so his emotions on his show were like really like embarrassing to watch. But I don't know. There's a lot of people that like when a statement comes out, instead of just like retweeting it, they'll like save the image and tweet it out themselves. Like they're like the beacon of information. And there was a lot of stuff that like it's just like this isn't about you. Like stop it. Don't do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it was not great. I think
unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, people want those followers. People want those engagements, I guess.
It's also because like when it happened, Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark were so good at handling it, and everyone said so that I think a lot of people were like, I want to be Ryan Clark, and it just really got out of hand. So I think that's an unfortunate offshoot of this week too. I wanted to at least mention. You don't want to talk about it though. You're like, oh, this is not what I want. It's another thing you don't care about.
I do care about it, like, I don't know. I have thoughts on it, but I don't know. I don't know if I mean,
personally, like, I was just tense waiting for him to wake up. Like,
yes,
I think everyone wanted that.
I know what you mean though. And even in the moment, I think that people got maybe a little bit too self-righteous about some things.
Yes.
Like not fully understanding the situation, or not fully like. I will say I stand by the fact that like I do think that like maybe the decision to like postpone the game could have been made a little bit sooner.
Absolutely, definitely. And like as much as I said, like Troy Vincent should have come on and be like, yeah, listen, we didn't know, we were just scrambling in real time, and we were probably a little late, but it was unprecedented for us, and we hadn't handled. But instead, it's like this soapbox finger wagging, like how dare they say that? It's you protest too much.
I don't think we should get too far into this, but you've opened, like, I feel like we've opened up the, I don't know, Pandora's box or whatever it is at this point. But like, I think it was him. I think it was Troy Vincent was like, we never even thought of continuing the game. It's like, then why didn't you say that? Like, why didn't anyone? Was it to like keep everyone in the stadium so that if it was to keep everyone in the stadium to like make sure that the ambulance could get to the hospital, then like that's a great reason, and like you should say that.
But also, like, you did think so because the game always resumes, and if you just said that,
Right.
no one's gonna react negatively. Just Troy Vincent, his track record on truth telling
Right.
and use of logic is spotty at best.
Yeah.
So he's a bad messenger.
It was a really long time too. I don't think we should like
55
underestimate that. From injury to postponement, it was 55 minutes.
He was injured at 8:55. It might have been longer. It might have been
it felt longer than that, but
it might have been like 10:05. Maybe it was like 70 minutes. I don't know, but it was too long, certainly, or maybe it was 40. Like I should probably know by now, but I do think there's the element of like I mentioned earlier, I'm an optimist, and like I put myself in those shoes, and I'm like, well, he's gonna be okay, right? Like he's gonna wake up on the way to the hospital, and like they'll have him stabilized by the time he gets there, right? Like so, if you're thinking that way, then in your mind, like I always do that, like these 9 things are gonna work out for me and for everyone, and we'll have a happy ending. So like I don't even fault them for thinking the best case scenario.
Right. Yeah.
But at a certain point, certainly it got well out of hand and clear that was not going to happen, and they probably should have called it sooner. Like as soon as the ambulance left, if that was the reason.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Thanks.
You have anything else?
No, I would just say, like I mentioned earlier, for this game, like we'd normally be looking at Mac, sort of a gotta have it game. We'd be looking at Bill in a gotta have it game. Remember, I said going into last week, like there was still an element of Bill not losing twice to Mike McDaniel, and I don't think Mike McDaniel coached a very good game. Now I think there's the case of Sean McDermott going, what is it going to be, 5-1 against Belichick and the Patriots? Actually, 6-1 if you got the playoffs.
Right.
Is there some sort of, final push or like last great game plan to counteract it? There's a lot of stuff that I think we would be talking about, but really it's like, well, that's all a waste of time. Like this is all about emotion, and it's all about like humans and feelings, and like the Bills are going to put their helmets on for the first time, their game pants on, not their helmets, but their game pants, their jerseys for the first time since Monday night. Like they're going to be going through a lot that it could help them. It could make it harder for them. It could be hard on the Patriots. It could like make the environment 29 different ways that it's almost like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to watch just like everyone else.
That element for the Patriots is so strange because like they can't fully take that emotion out of it either. And it's not like, I'm not saying that they're going to like want to lose to the Bills, but like obviously they feel so much compassion for what the Bills have gone through this week that it's not even a normal week there. I don't think it's still, I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe like once they strap the helmets on and everything, like, and they get out on the field and everything, it will still feel the same as it would a normal game. But
I don't know. I think you're right. Cause like when you
I feel like it's
strap
not
it on and line up, it's like, yeah, they're not going to be like, I want to hit this guy really hard.
Right. And like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to present itself on the field, I
actually saw a tweet. Part of that performative, like, showmanship that I mentioned was like, I forget. I don't even know who it was. So it's not really like hiding, but it was something like the next snap of football we'll see will be the most terrifying one we've ever seen. And I was like, that's a bit much. Like but then, so I was trying to scan through Inside the NFL to see, what they had to say about it. And so they basically did an 8-minute episode where they just talked about Damar Hamlin, but then they also put out all the NFL films, vignettes or whatever of all the games. And I went to the Patriots one to see if anybody mic'd up clips or anything. And they were showing like the NFL films, slow-mo, just like normal helmet to chest hits and all that. And I was just, the whole time I was kind of cringing. Like I was kind of wincing. And I'm like, all right, fair enough to whoever's tweet I, in my head, dismissed. Like, so if viewers are kind of thrown off by that, I know these guys are like tough and warriors and more insane when it comes to playing through pain and all that than we can even imagine. But like, if it's hard to like watch from afar in slow motion when everyone's okay, I got to imagine it's going to be hard for everyone in that league to play their normal speed and, intensity, at least to start on Sunday. Yeah. Maybe they'll get into some sort of rhythm, but it's got to be hard.
No, I certainly agree. And like I said, I'm curious to see what all of that looks like when the Patriots and Bills specifically take the field. And I'll also say that there's probably been a lot of instances over the last 21 or so years where like the majority of the country was cheering against the Patriots. I feel like this week will be even higher than that somehow, than in the heyday of Belichick and Brady. You're a sports talk radio connoisseur, right?
No, I don't know if I use that word, but I listen to it quite a bit.
What
Used to be on it.
What have Felger and Maz been talking about this week?
I think it's been somewhat gentle. Maz has been out.
Okay.
But I think it's been somewhat sensitive to the situation for the most part. There's been a lot of scenario talk from what I've caught. But I haven't caught too much of it.
Interesting.
So I can't really answer that too well. But it's like, yeah, if you had to do a show Tuesday afternoon, like, I don't. Yeah.
When you're usually like trending so negatively, like I don't spend much of my days feeling bad for Felger and Maz, but that must.
I did hear today. I did hear that the win over the Dolphins was a fake win because it was against a third-string quarterback and you scored on defense. Which, like, it's just semantics, really, because, like, you and I minimized, like, it wasn't, like, a defining win when you, again, need a defensive score. But, like, yeah, he's, like, Felger called it a fluke touchdown. Like, I would say it's not sustainable. He would call it a fluke. We're both saying the same thing. I think, like, you can't strategize it. I think that's the ultimate point. So, I would say it's, like, there's some elements of reason, and then, with a flourish, to rile the people up. So I think it was getting back to normal today. Again, I think a lot of normalcy returned.
Yeah.
And because have you ever, I mean, I don't mean how have you ever, but if you've ever, or if anyone's ever had like a loved one in the hospital or in an accident or anything, you know that the doctors are going to give you the absolute worst case scenario as your hope. Like, if there is a 50% chance of you walking again after an injury, they're going to say, like, he probably won't walk again. And then it's up to the patient and medicine and rehab and everything to get that. And they generally outperform, in my experience at least, they generally outperform that initial prognosis. So to hear from the doctors today that the goal is to get him back to the health he was at on Sunday, that tells me that he woke up and neurologically he was probably better than I think they feared.
Right.
And so that's why I think we're kind of jumping the gun, because if there was chances of X, Y, or Z nightmare still playing out, I don't think that press conference with the doctors happens at all.
Right. I don't think it happens. I certainly don't think that there's that optimistic tone. And no, you're right. Like, I don't think it happens at all. I don't think they put them out there if there was like a huge fear, but obviously, hopefully we're right about that. Because
hopefully, yeah. But I mean, they've been so careful with the information all week.
Right.
That I think until he wakes up and until he recognizes his surroundings and who he is and who's around him and where he was, that they couldn't have released that. So I think that's just outstanding. And it's like, it got me like, you start hearing about youth sports, kids that have suffered something like that. And obviously without the AEDs around, and I just saw like the Saints donated something like 93 defibrillators to local rec leagues. And it's like, ultimately, if this guy, if Damar Hamlin is okay and better, and there's more safety put in place, not just in the NFL, but everywhere else, then I think like that's a good way for this to end up. If you could have said that Monday night, like if you could have peeked into the future, if that's where it does end up, that's pretty damn good.
No, absolutely. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens on Sunday. I had a thought. It has left my brain. I felt like I had one more thing to say.
Polar Seltzer ad read? Raspberry lime goes good with anything.
Nice. Have your kids watched the Harry Potter movies at all?
No, I think it's too scary for my kids. My 8-year-old has watched all the Star Wars except for Rogue One, because Rogue One in my mind is very dark.
It is.
I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but like everyone dies.
I fell asleep.
I don't think she's ready for that.
I fell asleep in the theater during Rogue One. I went with like 6 people. It's a good movie. I went with like 6 people and like 5 of us fell asleep. And I think like obviously it's a dark movie material wise, but it's also like a visually dark movie, which we went too late. I showed my 5-year-old Harry Potter 1 and she liked it. And then I showed her Harry Potter 2 and she was like, I don't like that guy. Like, I'm going to like, tell me when he's gone. I'm going to open him up my eyes again. And I was like, all right, I'm really going to push this. I'm going to show her Harry Potter 3. And it was like, probably a little bit too scary. And I didn't realize, like, I've never seen the Harry Potter movies before. Like, not all of them or anything like that. I didn't realize that they jumped up to like PG-13 for the first one.
like, okay. So I was a big Potter guy, not afraid to admit it. I think like when the first one came out, the book, the idea was like that a 6th or 7th grader would read it. Right. And they tried to sort of progress
like
with
grow
that reader.
With the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the movies kind of reflect that. So run it back because I haven't. So there's the giant spider in one, right? That would be and then the guy with the head on his back of his head. Spoiler alert. Quirrell.
Yep.
Now 2, what was the scary part in 2?
She just straight up did not like the guy with the cat, who's like the ugly looking guy who has the cat with him. He's got like long straggly hair.
Oh, okay.
He's like a caretaker or something like that. I don't know. She just
like didn't nasty fingers.
Yeah, she just did not like the way that guy looked. Can't blame her.
So and then 3 is that when the Prisoner of Azkaban, is that 3?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of scariness in that one. That one's
kind of... She didn't love like the werewolf.
I would stop there. Yeah, I'd stop there.
We're stopping here. We're stopping there. I've got a take though, as a first time watcher of the Harry Potter movies.
Okay, let's hear it.
Harry Potter 1 wasn't very good.
No.
There's like barely a plot. It's like scene setting, I think. But I haven't read the book either. Like I'm sure the book like probably has a better plot. Like they probably had a hard time like narrowing it down to a movie and everything like that. But it was just like it was basically just like, all right, this is what this world is. It was basically just it felt like world building more than an actual movie. And the CGI in Harry Potter 1 is trash. No
was offense. That 2000, 2001-ish?
2001, I think, yeah.
We've come a long way since then. My history with Harry Potter is my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was into it, had read it since like middle school or whatever. And I think the 4th movie was coming out in theaters. And so I went to go see it with her. And I was like, all right, so like what happens next? She's like, well, I'm not going to tell you. You got to read the book. I'm like, all right, let me have the book. And she goes, well, you can't just start with the 5th book. You got to read. And I'm like, God. So it was like college, like freshman or sophomore year, like winter break when you have that like 3-week stretch with nothing to do. And I read like 5 Harry Potter books in like 4 weeks. And I got all caught up. And then I watched the movies as they came out. I think they end up all right. I like the last one. The last one's good.
I liked Azkaban a lot.
Yeah, that was a great one. That was Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah.
Very good filmmaker. The element of time travel with with your own life.
Explaining time travel to a 5-year-old, not the easiest thing to do.
I can't explain it to myself. Like it's very time travel is a very complex concept for the human brain to grasp. And
she's like, why can they see themselves? I was like, they're back in time. Because like sometimes I just say things
to
a child. Right. But like sometimes I say things to a child as if like they know what it means. Like they've seen Back to the Future a million times like I have. And she was just like, what's that? I'm like, God damn it. Now I have to like explain time travel? How am I supposed to do that?
What else? I saw something more recently that had time travel in it. And it's like, it's kind of like a catch-all like plot device that's kind of cheap. Yeah. Because you can do whatever you want with it. But it's also like, you blew Mike Hurley's mind. Like he is in this seat in the movie theater, like just twisting in, like melting into the seat because of the time travel element. So, yeah, the 3rd one's good. Good. This is good Harry Potter talk. I will say, they do stray from the books a little because like the 5th.
Because you have to,
books,
right? Yeah.
They're like 900 pages.
Right.
But for the most part, you get the gist. So I don't know. The first one is more of a kid's book and movie.
Yeah.
And it does get dark. Yeah, I wouldn't go to 4. Cedric Diggory.
Go to 4.
Cedric Diggory, we talk about. Oof. No one was ready to see Cedric.
I'm not gonna lie, I might watch them on my own though. So
yeah, they're pretty good.
Might have some updated Harry Potter talk as this show goes along. One other thought on Harry Potter. I'm a big ride guy. I go to Disneyland, Disney World, Disneyland, all those things. At the Super Bowl last year, we are like the media party was at Universal Studios Hollywood. So got to go to Harry Potter Land, which I haven't been to Universal Studios Hollywood since I was probably like 8 or something. Looks a lot different than it did back in 1994. Yeah. They've made some updates, but the Harry Potter ride, like the main ride, is
like Hagrid motorcycle one.
No, that's in Florida. So the main ride in Hollywood is like I wish I knew what it was called, but it's like a screen ride. You're like in a vehicle and it's basically just like spinning around, like showing you all these screens, like things are coming at you. It's like, motion, like all those things. I have never, ever, ever, ever in my life felt more sick than I did on that ride. Like I could not recommend it less to anyone. And I was very hungry at the time, which I don't think helped. But everyone else that I was with at the time too was like, wow, I almost threw up like 10 times on that ride. So it was cool being at Harry Potter Land.
Oh, I see it. With the candles hanging and stuff.
Yeah. Good Lord. And like the CGI also is about as bad as it was in Harry Potter 1. And I don't think that helped either. But I think there was like Dementors coming at you and all this stuff. But I
was not at last year's Super Bowl, but I would add the Mall of America Super Bowl. The media party was at the amusement park in the mall.
Yeah.
And your friend Mike had a couple of pops. It was open bar. Had a few pops. Rode the SpongeBob coaster like 3 straight times. Did the roller coaster where you're just spinning the whole time. Did the ride that, like, you might see it like at Canopy Lake. There's one, it's like a skateboard, basically. It's like a pirate ship that's spinning the whole time. No problems.
Wow.
Just made it through. I was, at a certain point, I was like, I'm going to stop now because I've had like 3 or 4 beers and I've ridden like 90 spinning rides. Like, let's quit while we're ahead.
I also want to say that, like when you say like the SpongeBob coaster, I think that like most people would be like, oh, it's like this like kiddie coaster that goes like 20 miles per hour. It's like a 180 drop basically.
No, it's more. It actually it's a straight up climb, and you come down at an acute angle. It's not a right angle, and it's not obtuse. It's acute, and you're going like back down. It's any New Englander or New Hampshire, right? They have it at Canopy Lake basically. It's the bear one. I forget what they call it. Untamed.
Interesting.
And it's literally straight up, and then you do some loops and flips and all that. I actually rode it. Here's a fun story. I forget. I think Hardy was with me, but so was Zolak. And 2 random people. I don't know who they were, if they were even in the media, if they were like at the amusement park somehow. And Zolak was using some colorful language on the roller coaster. And the lady at the end was just like, "Are you okay, sir?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. SpongeBob." But it was that was a great ride. That was a good time. That was one of the few good times of the week in Minneapolis.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. I mean, Super Bowl weeks are usually very fun. That one had some fun moments, but
did you get the flu after that? I sure did. A week in a mall.
I think I did. And I also got like the heaviest jacket I've ever bought in my life after that. Because I was like, I never want to be cold ever again in my whole entire life. So that was also a massive down jacket.
It was a mild week by Minneapolis. Like we left and it was like negative 20 for a week. So it was not too bad.
The day of the Super Bowl was like 2 degrees and felt like negative 20 or something like that. They have one of those SpongeBob type rides there's like another Mall of America type place in New Jersey called the American Dream. And it's a Ninja Turtles themed one.
Awesome. Oh, I met them that night. Not to brag.
Oh, wow. Who was Leonardo? Was Michelangelo funny in person?
They were
Was he
pretty
charming
quiet,
in person?
for being honest. But I got a picture with them. They were my heroes growing up. Anyways, there's a Ninja Turtles roller coaster in New Jersey.
And when I was in New Jersey last year on like a training camp tour type of thing, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to American Dream and like ride that ride because, I don't know, I'm in New Jersey and there's nothing else to do. And like getting into that amusement park, I don't know the exact sum. Don't look this up. But it felt like it was like $400. Like it was just like an astronomical amount of money. It was probably only like 80 or something like that. But I was basically like, there's no way I'm spending $80 or $70 or whatever it was to like go on this one ride. But I was so bummed because I was like, I went all the way here and I'm not even going to do this.
next summer, you let me know when you want to do a Canopy trip, and we can
All
ride
right.
Untamed.
We'll go
Canopy is not $400.
That's good.
The acute angle. It's a good ride. It's a good
Yeah.
ride.
All right.
Anyways,
well,
a good ride
we'll,
talk. I think there was only so much football we could talk today. So
yeah. No, I agree. And this is probably our longest episode, and a good fifth of it was talking about Harry Potter. So, all right.
how about that House of Representatives, huh? Can we get into that?
What?
Yeah. All right. We'll
All right,
talk.
well, we
Hey,
will
next
be
time we
back.
do this, we'll know if the Patriots are in or out of the playoffs. We'll know whether it's the off season or the postseason.
Oh, the one other thing about football, I don't love that there's not a Thursday night game right now. I think that in the future, the NFL just needs to move one of the games that has like no outcome on anything that matters, like two teams that are eliminated, just like throw them on Thursday, entering the final week of the season, so that at least like there's some football game to watch on Thursday, because the week feels weird without a Thursday game.
I hear you. I would say the player safety situation's rough when you're not planning a Thursday game and then like you get thrown into it. So I would counter your offer by rearranging the college football playoff and putting the national championship on a Thursday night rather than a Monday night. I think Thursday night is a better window for the national championship game. So you move those semifinals. No one needs it on New Year's Eve. That's a dumb setup. Anyway,
I don't like it on New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Set it up for the Thursday before it. Then you get the NFL. Listen, there's things we can do about this, but I think if the national championship game was on a Thursday, that'd be better than a Monday.
That sounds good. Yeah, I guess we should probably care about player safety after this week. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
Just like, because you're not going to be
argue at
into
that
it.
point.
If you get chosen as like the dumpy, crappy game that doesn't matter, like that's
The teams
problematic.
wouldn't players like kind of want to get it over with? Wouldn't they want to be like,
Maybe.
our season's over anyway? Like
Yeah.
like 3 days early. Let's just like end it. Let's get out.
You'd
go
also
home.
you'd be nationally televising a game where both teams are kind of like, hey man, like just go easy. Like
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Two-hand
It'd be
touch.
great. It'd be like the Pro Bowl. It'd be like encourage them to do like play their practice squad. Like do like weird things. Like make it a tryout game for the next. I don't know. Yeah, have them
Yeah.
release their entire roster and sign new guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
I don't
we
know.
could have more fun with the final Thursday of the NFL season. That's all I'm
for
gonna say.
sure. I mean, this year it kind of worked out because I don't think anybody but you wanted to
No,
watch
yeah.
a football game tonight.
That's fine.
But you're right. Generally, week 18, week 17 previously, it's like need that to get through the week. But we'll figure it out next year. We'll get there.
Yep, we will. All right. We will be back after Sunday's game. At some point, we will record that episode. And we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.